Hi, this is Dustin. In this video, I will show proof for No More Genocides Part 4 with today's science and technology for real Star Trek with credible resources in the description. My background: I have 2 bachelor's degrees, 2 master's degrees, and I completed my PhD degree except the dissertation. Instead, wrote a book that is free on Amazon based on Yara Shahidi's hypothesis given in a speech at the Gleason Respect Awards on October 19, 2018. The hypothesis is that prevention will lead to equity, and that equity will lead to equality. This is a non-profit channel, and everything said on this channel has a reference in the description. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments. Okay, let's begin. In the pilot episode of Star Trek Enterprise, they said there will be no more wars by 2151. Since wars are needed to do genocides, then this means genocides will be gone too in the Star Trek universe. Propaganda is a tool that promotes genocides because it pushes the narrative by making the enemy less than human. In order to get rid of genocides, then you have to get rid of propaganda. Let's solve genocides. To get rid of propaganda and genocides permanently, then people have to understand how propaganda comes about. And then people have to use science and ethics in their daily lives. Why is this so? For preventative measures to be in place, students will be immersed into these 2 subjects from 2 years old to graduation to adults working on their jobs. For one, science is the best information humans have to discern what this world is all about. One of the great things about science is that it is an entire exercise in finding what is true. For example, if Dave has a hypothesis and tests it, then he will get a result. A rival named Janet double-checks the result because she believes that Dave is wrong. Janet puts together and performs an even better experiment that Dave could only dream about. When Janet gets her result, she finds out that it matches Dave's result. The results from these 2 experiments show that they are onto something that hasn't been discovered in nature. Science, through these steps mapped out by Dave and Janet, does it better than anything else humans have come up with in the history of our species. When there is an established scientific emerged truth, then it is true, whether the person likes it or not. To prove that science works is to look at the U.S. It has the biggest economy in the world because of science and technology. For example, science journals are like the news of the world. With a discovery and replication of that discovery, like what Janet and Dave did to make sure it is fact, are being written down in science journals. These journals are peer-reviewed to make sure Janet and Dave's experiments are on the up and up. After this is done, then science journals point to new ideas that can create new industry and jobs, like during the Industrial Revolution. This is the future for humans to understand how powerful science is by being immersed in it in schools from 2 years old to graduation. As for ethics, it is a police force in governing people's behaviors and conducting activities. Ethics looks over science experiments to see if experiments and people in experiments are legit and are not being taken advantage of. Ethics are in business to see if businesses are not ripping off customers with snake oil. Ethics are in politics to show that politicians are not taking advantage of voters' trust by stealing their money. Ethics are also in journalism to show that people are reporting facts and not propaganda. Ethics are in every industry in the United States. Let's begin with objective, personal, and political truths. Objective truth is the scientific method for finding facts. Objective truth is true whether a person believes it or not. Personal truth is truth only to that person. For example, if 2 people own pets and one person claims that dogs make better pets, but another person claims that cats make better pets, so what is labeled fact? This fact is based off of personal preference. Personal truths can be dangerous because it is based on the art of persuasion. If a person cannot convince another person of their personal truth, then violence will be dealt to convince each owner that their claim is fact. In reality, this may never happen, but personal truths are how humans get into wars. If countries or leaders of those countries cannot convince either side of their personal truth is fact, then wars will be fought to convince the other that they were right. For example, cultural and religious wars were fought in the past because each side couldn't convince the other that their way of life was better and that they should live their way, like the Crusades, the Civil War, the U.S. versus Native Americans in the 18th and 19th centuries, World War II, etc. Now, with political truths, they are repetitive claims about something until it is believed. As stated before, Serbian politicians bombarded television shows with propaganda convincing the Serbian population that Bosnian Muslims were feeding Serbian children to the lions at the zoo. This continuous dehumanization of propaganda led to the genocide in the former Yugoslavia. Just to reiterate what was just said so far, is that personal and political truths are not facts, and the only one that counts as a fact are objective truths. Objective truth is true whether a person believes it or not, because it has a hypothesis, an experiment, it is transparent, it is replicated, and it is peer-reviewed before it becomes fact. So what? Well, it is easier to explain how to deal with informative truth by understanding what political, personal, and objective truths are, because the U.S. is bombarded by each one every day. Again, information is key for the survival of life. Capitalism, competition, knowing what to do during extreme weather, or just getting around the town for the ordinary person. For example, information can help with everyday conversations on what facts are applicable to buying toilet paper, to kissing your partner, to buying a car, to making money, getting along with people, to becoming fulfilled and happy and living in the American dream with equality for all. Yes, it is that important. It is the backbone why humans have survived so long. Anyways, the key is the education students will receive from 2 years old to graduation, and asking someone to prove something in whatever claim another student makes. For example, if a student does not believe another student on their claim on something, then this student will have to prove it with credible resources. These sources will be labeled and used in school in their persuasive essays written from 2 years old to graduation, and then will be used as oral arguments in their everyday lives as adults interacting with one another. When these students grow up, they will be titans of industry to the presidents of the United States, and they will have to prove their claim with objective truths, with a hypothesis, an experiment, a replication, make it transparent, and be peer-reviewed to be claimed as fact. This means that the whole culture of the United States will finally be able to use objective truths in everyday life, while at the same time, propaganda of political and personal truths will go extinct. Political and personal truths of propaganda will only be used in school as a tool to avoid when learning them. To achieve this, students need to know how to achieve scientific reasoning as their established knowledge base. Students need to learn science, read science journals, and to do projects through a science lens of hypothesis, experiment, and duplicate to establish fact under an ethic foundation of law from 2 years old to graduation in every subject in school, like they do on Science Girls on PBS. In Science Girls, they do science experiments for preteens for school, like Dolphin Dive. If a whole series on PBS can make science fun for preteens, who some have the shortest attention spans, like my nieces, then this shows that this is the right path to take for education. The key is immersion. Immersion is like a preteen always on their phone. If students are immersed in the science and ethics from 2 years old to graduation, and then adulthood, then objective truth will emerge into a universal culture of understanding for life, and then personal and political truths that use propaganda to push wars and genocides will be a teaching tool on what to avoid. Getting rid of genocides is not that hard if you use prevention as a tool first, because prevention will lead to equity, and then equity will lead to equality through Yara Shahidi's hypothesis. Then real Star Trek will emerge. This is the end of part 4. Live long and prosper.